Camaradas ouvintes, essa é mais uma edição de Consumo Artistas.
Muito boa tarde a todos os estimados rádio ouvintes. Nesse momento terá...
Good afternoon, dear listeners. You are receiving the broadcast of Radio Voice of Kelele.
Alô, ouvinte, boa tarde.
Sim, boa tarde também.
Não completa assim 3 ouvintes e restando só vai passar músicas que pedi.
Ele passa 2 minutos depois de 1 hora, não deixava atrás 3 faixas musicais que eu passo com o grupo dos ouvintes.
Para ser tradição, ele que te abre com coisa lá, com...
Guinea-Bissau still faces enormous problems of development. Communications are difficult. Roads are bad or non-existent, which keeps many regions in isolation. The few newspapers are only available in the capital, Bissau. Electrical power is limited. Television is the privilege of a few, but everyone listens to radio.
وأضافت المصادر أن شهودهم أكدوا تحرك الاتصالات قطعت بعد ذلك وكانت جماعات حقوقية.
Community radios have been in existence since 1994 and community television since 2001. Today, nearly 30 community radios cover most of the country. There are 3 TV stations, one in Bissau, TV Clele, and 2 rural stations in areas far from the capital.
As rádios comunitárias na Guiné-Bissau.
Community radios in Guinea-Bissau share one trait. They are located in remote places. Bué, for instance, people seldom go to Bué, there's hardly any roads, yet it has a community radio.
Vai ao fim da Guiné-Bissau, num local em que durante as chuvas...
On the border of Guinea-Bissau, in the region of Tombali, which is hard to reach in the rainy season, you find a community radio.
Per tratar sofrimento de todo o povo na diáspora, de tudo.
Carlos Schwartz, better known as Pepito, is one of the driving forces behind community radio and television initiatives in Guinea-Bissau. He is a staunch promoter of independent voices controlled by local communities.
As rádios que existiam eram as rádios do poder central.
The only radios before belonged to central power. They explained, ruled, and guided what the population ought to hear. It was really hear and be quiet.
E para que o desenvolvimento fosse desenvolvimento em que as pessoas estivessem envolvidas, se apropriassem.
For real development, one in which people became involved and take hold of their own destinies, radio is the way they can attend to their own concerns. The first radio was RVQ, launched in the Bissau district of Kelele in 1994. Its range was only 5 kilometers. It started with only the simplest, most rudimentary equipment.
Quando isso surge, nós somos confrontados com...
When our radio appeared, we were regarded as some kind of resistance because the political powers didn't want it. I remember at the time we had to move the radio from place to place each day, so that they couldn't find our location.
Para evitar que eles fossem, o poder político fosse lá e fosse apanhar onde estava a rádio. Até que nós somos informados de que eles...
Eventually, we were informed that in fact, they wanted this radio closed down. In 1995, the country had to face for the first time a cholera epidemic. There was no knowledge of how to solve the problem.
E corriam os rumores mais incríveis.
The most incredible rumors went around, the most incredible solutions to fight the spread of cholera.
Perante a adversidade que era.
Then this radio, the voice of Kelele, confronted with hundreds of deaths in the different districts and areas of the country, decided to take the risk of resuming broadcasts and make itself the radio that talked about cholera. Mr. Domingos Caetano, regarding cholera, which are the appropriate measures?
Isso criou uma dinâmica muito grande na comunidade. A cólera que era uma vergonha.
That created a tremendous drive in the community. Having cholera used to be a shame. That changed. People gave warning when they caught cholera, so they were treated at once. As a result, in our district of Kelele, covered by our radio, there was only one known casualty, against dozens and hundreds in other districts. Finally, the government, through the Ministry of Health, publicly acknowledged that this was due to the influence of community radio and the good work it had done. From that moment on, there was an increase in the number of radios throughout the country, addressing not only health issues, but also culture, democracy, development, and other issues of importance to local communities. One aspect worth noting is that some programs of particular interest to the population are broadcast in the different ethnic languages.
Mariama kurman menna kuma ka mbafu tandila man be nyantra nganyum kuma ka ngamoy.
Assalamu alaikum milmende mabijola ngonya susu de entre ngabijola mantangi sinaga njolam.
Wayr non ko nyaw watta e nyaagama to bongo fewndima.
The several radios are organized into one national network, RENARC. Jointly with AD, they organize and promote the training of local volunteers. We must pay close attention to the answers of our interview guest. Elisa Gomes, aged 21, has worked 8 years as a volunteer at Radio Voz de Clelé in Bissau. She enjoys giving support to community development. She now creates and presents programs on her own, and she knows all the technical aspects. We invite experts from various areas to enrich the program. We do not always know every aspect of the local matters we cover. For instance, juridical matters or healthcare technical aspects and so on. At first, she was the only female radio announcer. Today, there are many more. For the girls, it's harder, I think, because of their domestic chores. Some of them start but cannot carry on. Others stop to give birth. Then they cannot go through with their radio work. I still manage. I don't know how it will be in future, but I am motivated to go on. Radio Kasumai operates from São Domingos in the north of the country with the help of 17 volunteers. Some of our staff has had some professional training. Even if they are not full-fledged journalists, they have a measure of professional know-how. We also have a few people that are illiterate, yet were indicated by the community. They cannot read or write, but they can assimilate information and transmit it adequately. People who have had training pass it on to others. We need technicians to train others and to do refresher courses. It is a risk, but we must start thinking about specialist training.
A função da rádio comunitária é permitir à comunidade ter a voz dentro.
The function of community radio is to allow each community to have its voice in the country, to express what it feels, and to inform people of what is happening in our community.
É que a rádio tem sempre a participação da comunidade.
Each radio always has the participation of its community regarding program contents. The broadcasters may be knowledgeable in some areas, but not in others. So it is the community that proposes the programs it needs. Every year, we hold a meeting open to the entire community to evaluate and revise programs. There are bancadas, groups of young people that meet to debate the issues they find relevant, as well as the contents of radio programs that should be produced and broadcast at Radio Kasumai, our radio, as they call it.
Se realmente não cultivasse a relação de confiança entre próprio radialista.
If you do not cultivate the trust between the broadcaster and the community, then day by day you will lose your audience.
Para 100 e tal pessoas como Urila, fora de feridos graves, penso como mostrar ligeiro. De qualquer abertura, de qualquer campo.
The north is a sensitive region. Bordering on Senegal, the population has suffered much violence due to the rebellion raging for the past 20 years in southern Senegal. In the São Domingos sector, radios play an important role in maintaining the peace. In 2006, troops from Guinea attacked the rebels that had infiltrated the north of Guinea-Bissau. The struggle resulted in great suffering for the population. Villages were destroyed, people lost their lives or their homes. At present, the villages have recovered and the area is calm. But there are still many refugee camps in the region. Throughout this process, our role as the community's organ of communication has been to try and reconnect the families that lost contact during this conflict. Bala Sambu, program director, is highly aware of the responsibilities of radio in conflict zones.
As informações que nós passamos, sobretudo dos temas mais quentes.
In our reports, especially when relating to sensitive issues, we give the information focusing on the facts.
Temos que refletir em conjunto, nós aqui internamente, a nível da direção, tentar procurar saber.
We must all, everyone in the direction, do an internal assessment of how to treat such information, so that it may be broadcast without hazard to society and to our community. Yet another important area is agriculture. Ortiz Félix Batista is a farmer, and he hosts the program No Pensa no Labor. Let's think about agriculture. A few young men dislike hard work. Who will pay our school? UPAI, the Union of Small Farmers of Ingore, was given a radio slot for an agricultural magazine. They told me, you are a farmer, so you must do your share of volunteering on this radio, and we want you to host the agricultural program. I agreed.
Urgência, consumo, para poder chegar rápido para que a transformar. Esse momento que nós estamos tempo de caiu, meio transporte para poder chegar tal, de que centro de produção tem para poder fazer podúnculo, descascar também caiu.
Southern Guinea-Bissau is quite isolated. Roads are bad and information does not reach it. The population lives from agriculture. The wild forests of Cantanhês are considered a great natural asset, the so-called holy woods, and they are important for the ecosystem. But these forests are endangered by excessive tree felling. One of the first radios in the region was Radio Forrea, launched in the year 2000. At first it only played music.
Depois que bim vai ter certo tempo que no bim vai convidado que para área para naquele encontro de rádios.
After quite some time, AD invited us to take part in the community radio meetings. When we got back home, we saw that things must change. We couldn't just play music. We know some people are felling trees abusively, and we must divulge these facts on the radio to raise our people's awareness that our forests must be looked after, because we can't live without the forests. Our wealth is the forest. Our food comes from the forest. If we let our forest be destroyed, we harm our children and grandchildren. Mamadou Galiza, director of Radio Lamparam, interviews families that clear away the forest to plant oranges, bananas and cashew. He tries to dissuade them, explaining that there are dedicated areas where this is allowed and other areas that must be respected. This radio also calls on local administration, on the traditional chiefs and the population to stop planting cashew nuts. We know that cashew nuts bring wealth to Guinea-Bissau, but also that cashew trees deplete the soil, because no vegetation can grow under them. A recent problem is the mining of bauxite. Last year, in 2010, we produced a program about bauxite. This is a new thing in our country, the exploitation of mineral resources. We never did that before. We have tried small-scale exploitation as a pilot project. Perhaps next year this will grow. But we must be careful. We draw the attention of the authorities to these procedures so that problems do not arise in future. We know problems will arise. That is why we draw the attention of the authorities and invite them to come and speak on our radio to elucidate people, because our land belongs to all of us. When such activities are undertaken, all the population should be involved. In Bissau, radio started covering elections in 2004 and broadcasting the results made public by each voting assembly. The overall final results are announced later by the National Committee.
E de lá, mas, a hora que não conta resultado, e tem mangas de contextos para parte de juristas, que entre eles próprios, até falar como now.
Whenever we publicize the results, a dispute would start among jurists. Some argued that we may not do this, others said we may. Finally, they came to the conclusion that RVQ may publicize election results in the district of Kilele. Dear listeners, good afternoon. We bring you the provisional results of the Kilele Voting Assembly for the current elections. There is always pressure by the political parties to secure the so-called airtime for their electoral propaganda, but the radios made it clear that this was not their role.
O tempo de antena que existe é só.
The airtime available is but one, and it belongs to communities and associations, to youth groups, to farmers' unions, and to federations.
Esses é que têm que ter o seu tempo de antena para questionar os partidos.
They are the ones that need airtime, to put questions to the political parties, asking what each proposes to do, what each pledges to do, and what will happen if they default. Community radios have a legal status. AD, Action for Development, always offers help with the legal procedures. Various forms of cooperation with local power are in place, safeguarding against loss of independence. We are always open in the administration, and we call on everyone in a position of authority in all state services here in our sector to hold themselves to account and to give interviews. That is also a way to let the population know what we are doing. We always accept criticism so long as it is constructive. But if it is criticism aimed at creating conflict and friction, then we stand against it.
Eu não sei se as autoridades estão a cooperar com este programa das rádios comunitárias. O que eu sei é que é dado adquirido, é uma força adquirida.
I am not sure that the authorities are cooperating with this policy of community radios. I do know, however, that they are a fait accompli, that they are a popular force. These radios have the support, the backing of the population. And that gives government serious doubts and reservations about opposing or silencing these radios. Moreover, these radios have conducted themselves with the greatest dignity, professionalism and political exactness, so that no one can say they serve any vested interests, be they party political or economic. In fact, the radios are the sole representatives of the concerns of local people. That is the greatest force of these radios, and because of it, even though government may not support the radios, it will not attack them. Independence from political and economical vested interests is the keystone of our community radios. The day they waive that principle, they will be condemning themselves to extinction.
Lamarana, como custa na feira?
Está tudo bem. Este programa de música de Suzana Talento, ainda foi muito especial. Para ter um problema aí, sabe, tchau, com a Lamarana Sodola.
Responsible behavior is expected from all radio personnel. There are also local management bodies, councils of the elders, and listener groups that together make up the general tone of their radio. A radio announcer does not win status just because he or she works in radio. The technical aspects are solved through inventiveness. It is essential to keep systems simple. Radio and TV must not depend on technology that is too sophisticated. Local volunteers must be able to run radio and television stations on their own with the support of experts, but without depending on them.
Simplesmente a mim lanta, a mim sempre técnico de rádio.
I started doing it, that was it. I've always been a radio technician repairing radio sets. I came here because I had a great admiration for broadcasting. In those days, we had only radio. A radio receiver can also be an emitter. You can change it to an emitter. Our microphone is also adapted. I made this one myself. I used to repair radio sets, but even that I learnt out of curiosity because I never went to school. According to the AD director, the financial backers that believe in the system of community radios and TVs often bring in or suggest sophisticated equipment. Such equipment requires air conditioning or a technical know-how that is beyond us. We should adopt such technology only when we are able to master it and manage it. When it is beyond us, then it is no longer our own technology. We become dependent on whoever is giving us support.
Normalmente, uma rádio, aquilo que nós defendemos é que deve funcionar com o sistema mais simples possível.
Normally, a radio station should function with the simplest possible system, easily understood by a youngster. These young people work in the radio as volunteers. Some are students. Some live in villages and will become farmers tomorrow. Or they may leave their villages and take up other professions. Therefore, if the procedures and technology are too demanding, it will be difficult to keep these radios alive. Another secret of this kind of radio is that it must not reach too far. As your coverage range increases, active participation from the community decreases. The smaller your range, the better our listeners are able to discuss their problems and to identify them as their own.
Segunda passado, dia 18 de mês de ano 2009, na Canjunga. Abraço para todo mundo que nos acompanharam, botando votos e boa tarde. Informação desportiva que Deus é da Silva.
fulana etana